Well, forget a $1 billion ballpark here in Kansas City. What if I told you we were looking at $4.4 to $6.4 billion of your taxpayer monies going to a downtown Kansas City Royals ballpark? How's that sound? Gosh, I know. You want no part of that. Welcome in. Happy Friday morning. Made it to the end of the week on a Red Friday. How are you?
As a Johnson County resident, I'm all for it. Let's go.
Yeah, you are all for other people subsidizing your favorite baseball team, Mark. You love that idea, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Oh, my goodness. Well, something tells me that Jackson County and Kansas City residents are not going to like this idea one bit. Now, take it with a grain of salt, but this report caused quite a stir last night on social media here in this town, after the Kansas City Star said it obtained a confidential financial analysis conducted by Jackson County Executive Frank White's office. The Star claims that memo was sent to county legislators this week and would alter the price for taxpayers from the $1 billion price tag Royals owner John Sherman has suggested to more like $4.4 to $6.4 billion. Now, this is obviously insane. How legitimate it is, I don't know. But I do know I thought it was ridiculous for the taxpayer to be on the hook for $1 billion because the team wanted to build a $1 billion entertainment district that there's no evidence anybody actually wants. But that's beside the point right now. Could you possibly fathom the taxpayer in Jackson County, many of you listening right now, being on the hook for 4 to 6 times that for a ballpark? Now, the mayor of Kansas City shot this down last night. Quinton Lucas put on Twitter, I guess we got to call it X now. I'm still getting used to that. But the mayor put up last night on X, nothing I've ever seen about a new Royal Stadium even remotely suggests the cost will be between $4 to $6 billion. That would place it as one of the most expensive stadiums ever built in the history of the United States. The mayor said there are many reasons not to like a deal, but good faith negotiation should be expected on the community's behalf. I'm seeing anything but. If the answer is simply no from some, they should make it clear and allow others to bargain responsibly and productively. That was the mayor last night on his Twitter account. I believe what he's saying there. He knows that this was leaked by somebody on the Jackson County legislature. Somebody who doesn't like Frank White. Somebody who is skeptical of the ballpark. Now, there's a lot of those somebodies. One of them in particular is Manny Abarca, who's on the Jackson County legislature. He's coming on the show at 7:30 this morning, so don't miss that conversation here on KCMO Talk Radio. 95.7 FM, by the way. Hit that preset as you get the morning started. But there's a lot of people who are skeptical of what Frank White's office is doing. The other thing happening today is the 48-hour deadline that the Jackson County legislature gave Frank White's office to come back and basically say, here's what's going on with the Royals negotiations. Because right now, the legislature feels like it's been shut out. This whole thing is a giant mess. Now, I've said from day one, I understand why the Royals want to move. But it feels like they've taken this too far. They are down supposedly to downtown Kansas City, Missouri, and Clay County. Early on, I thought Clay County had no chance. Over the summer, I thought maybe Clay County was in the lead. And right now, I believe that Jackson County and downtown is back in the lead to land the Royals' new ballpark. Because the Royals have been very quiet. They have quietly been working this thing behind the scenes, trying to figure out, I believe, how they can stay in Jackson County and how they can get a deal that they actually like, that keeps them in that downtown environment that ultimately I think they want to have. I believe they're making a mistake doing that, not because I have some skin in the game with Clay County. I'm not investing $2 billion in downtown Kansas City, Missouri right now. I'm not doing it. If I'm making a 30-year bet on Clay or Jackson County, it's not even close. Whether it's crime, whether it's tax assessments, the list goes on and on. There have been a ton of issues there Besides the fact that I think that East Village spot in general just blows. You got homeless shelters all over the place. You got Power and Light District 10 minutes down the road. Power and Light does not self-sustain itself. That is subsidized by the city. So there's nothing that suggests to me you guys building commercial real estate, restaurants, entertainment is something anybody is asking for right now. You're just hoping that with 81 ball games a year, you can turn a nice profit on the entertainment district. And I hope that you can. I'm rooting for you. But I don't sit here with a lot of confidence and say, yeah, that's going to be a home run. I don't see it. If I was making a bet, I'd make that bet in North KC over downtown right now. Now, yesterday we had the mayor of Kansas City on the show, Quentin Lucas, for his usual Thursday slot. And I asked him about the Royals and where those conversations stood. And he sounded pretty confident. He sounded like a guy who felt pretty good about the prospects that this baseball team would be staying in Kansas City, Missouri proper.
More of a business-like process. We have that summertime beauty contest. You had on all types of interesting guests who were, preaching about the decline of downtown, the rise of other places, all those sorts of things. Look, the conversations continue. I think that they will be judicious, professional, and I would hope at least confidential to such extent that they need to be made public about what is the best potential deal for taxpayers, what is the best approach to the future of baseball in Kansas City, and how much private investment will be there. But I think conversations continue with Jackson County, with the city of Kansas City, with the state of Missouri, and certainly with the Chiefs and the Royals. I don't see any change on the timetable of wanting something on the April ballot. Mind you, this is a tough time to put things on the Jackson County ballot, which with all that's going on with property taxes. But I think those conversations continue. It's just turned away from what was a potential kind of this big show as to which place would be picked. I don't think that made the Royals look good. I don't think it made our community look good.
That was Quentin Lucas yesterday on this show here on KCMO, and that entire interview is up on the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Just search Pete Mundo, search KCMO, and you can find it there. But as I sit here this morning, and the mayor vehemently pushes back on this Kansas City Star report, which, by the way, I have no idea, and the Star doesn't really go on to explain a whole lot on how this ballpark could cost $4 to $6 billion with a B dollars when all is said and done, when you're talking about extending sales taxes and everything else. Putting that aside for a second, it's more about what makes sense for the Royals long term. Is it downtown or is it North Kansas City? And then the question is, what are they going to want from the taxpayer? And they have gotten greedy. They have gotten greedy on this project. Not just because they're asking for a lot, up to $1 billion because they want to build an entertainment district. But on top of that, when you lose 106 games a year, you tie a franchise record for losses in a season. I know you had a great September. That's great. Congratulations. When it didn't matter anymore, you had a good month. And that's not me being mean to the Royals. It's just a reality. When you are asking for that kind of money, when the team is not producing, and by the way, taxpayers in both counties are getting fleeced in different ways, whether it's assessments, whether it's sales taxes, whether it's, Joe Biden's inflationary policies, you have an uphill battle. And deep down, I think the Royals know that. 913-408-7957. As we get the show rolling on a Red Friday, Kendall Gammon will be here in 1 hour. Get you set for the Chiefs-Broncos in Denver this weekend. Always looking forward to that conversation with him here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Coming up, the Kansas City Star is still writing about trying to take something down in this town, despite the fact that you already voted on this and don't want to take it down. What is that? Who is that? We'll tell you coming up next on KCMO 95.7 FM. Got another woke idiot who wants to tell you why you should be perpetually offended by statues here in Kansas City. Good morning, 620. Welcome in. Happy Friday. We have made it to the weekend here in Kansas City. Woo! Great to have you on board. Thanks for being a part of the show, as always, on 95.7. So this was a special editorial written in the Kansas City Star that I didn't want to wait till later in the show to share it with you. I wanted to hit this thing right out of the gates on a Friday because it was just too much fun. I couldn't let this thing go. I was sitting and salivating to talk about this one all morning since I read the article last night. I was laughing my tail off reading it. The headline here in the Star, quit living in the past, Kansas City. Time to lose the Andrew Jackson statue downtown. Well, I guess, it is in the contract of the editors at the Star to put in a piece about taking down Andrew Jackson's statue at least on a monthly basis. There's no choice. I mean, you have to include that in the paper every month. There's no choice. I've seen the contracts for the editors of the paper, and it is required in there to talk about taking down Andrew Jackson's statue monthly. So here we go with the monthly piece on why Andrew Jackson's statue must be removed. Specifically in this case, downtown. The article notes here, the Andrew Jackson Monument at the county courthouse in downtown Kansas City has been at the center of a citywide reckoning about history and representation for years. Concerns about permanently keeping the statue in its place have continued to arise. From where, by the way? From you? Who else is talking about this? You're the only people in town who are talking about a dopey statue being offensive. When, by the way, the statue is of a former president of the United States, who I get was a flawed individual, but lived in very different times. I just love it's like when journalists are asking someone a question, and I use my air quotes when I say journalist. Well, many are saying, a lot of people out there are saying, oh my goodness, that's the worst. Right here, we find ourselves at a crossroads with two choices. Commit to a resolution for this contested monument or continue a cycle of indecision that wastes time and resources. Now, they may have forgotten, although the article does note this a couple of paragraphs down, that there was a countywide ballot initiative on this in 2020. And it asked voters in Jackson County to weigh in on the fate of the statues, downtown and in Independence. And a majority of voters chose to leave the sculptures in place. So why are we talking about this, Kansas City Star? A majority of voters, and by the way, a wide majority, more than 70% of Jackson County voters, 72% was the number. And this was back in 2020, when if you wanted to take down a statue, man, that was your chance, right? Because for some reason, George Floyd dies and the whole world goes nuts and people are like, well, let's start taking down statues. I mean, that's what we should do, right? Let's take the Land O'Lakes Indian off the butter, but keep the land, of course. Let's take Aunt Jemima off the syrup bottle. Uncle Ben's got to go, too, off the rice packets. I mean, we were so stupid in so many ways in 2020. Just mind-numbingly dumb. Did I forget something?
To do staying at home from work, though.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
seemingly.
That's a good point.
What's it? An idle mind is the devil's playground.
Yeah. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That fits right in. But if there was ever a time, it was 2020, right? And still 72% of voters in Jackson County, in a non-Trump, non-Republican county, Jackson County, Missouri, elected to keep the statues of Andrew Jackson. Yet here we are almost 3 years later to the day, and the Kansas City Star is still publishing articles from people who are like, would you take down the statues already? Oh, my goodness. Oh,
how dare you?
That's what they're doing.
What am I supposed to tell my 1.5-year-old?
We're walking through Independence and we see that statue.
And he pointed at it and said.
And he got triggered and he said, goo, goo, gaga. Because that's what 1-year-olds do. The article goes on to say, Kansas City is not unique in its efforts to confront problematic symbols in public spaces. This is satire. I mean, this is like stuff straight out of the Babylon Bee, man. It's unbelievable. Many cities have appointed commissions to review and reconcile contested monuments, including the Chicago Monuments Project, the Monument Avenue Commission in Richmond, Virginia, the New York City Commission on City Art, monuments and markers. Kansas City could benefit from such a commission. Yeah, just what we need, one more commission in this town.
I know what many cities also have. Fewer homicides than this city.
Seriously.
Right.
Imagine if they were as outraged over that as they are dopey statues that just, stare at you if you happen to walk past them. That's a great point as well. Talk about being offended. If you are privileged enough, see, this is the funny part about this. These people who claim victim status also are privileged enough to be offended by statues instead of a city trending towards a record number of homicides. Isn't that, that is awfully telling. If you are more offended by 2 statues in Jackson County and more interested in 2 statues than you are people literally dying at near record rates in this town, maybe you're the problem.
Talk about a bombshell.
It's something to think about. It's something to chew on as we go into the weekend. If you're the one, and in this case, the author is Nyesha Page Lieberman. If you are Nyesha Page Lieberman, and you're the one who feels like, oh, gosh, I got to write this letter, or not a letter to the editor. I got to write this guest column in the Star that's, 600-700 words about how Andrew Jackson's statue has got to go. Well, you're the one, by the way, who has great privilege. And I would also argue that you might be the one who's, shall we use the phrase, an election denier? Would we call Nyesha Page Lieberman an election denier? 3 years after 72% of Jackson County voters decided we want to keep Andrew Jackson statues. You're the one who's out there saying, nope, you got it wrong. Who do you think you are? You're a racist and you don't even know it. That's essentially the case that she's making. 72% of you in Jackson County. And for the Star, listen, I know they don't have any real reporters anymore. I understand that, that ship has sailed. But when this is the kind of stuff you want to publish in the name of guest columns, if you need a guest columnist, by the way, I'm available. I don't have a lot of time on my hands. I got a pretty full plate. But for a guest column in the Kansas City Star, I'll help them out where they need it. I'm available. They can call up the studio line and talk to John at 913-408-7957. We'll book it here on 95.7 FM. Coming up, imagine if I told you a group of people had to stay inside because they were fearful for their lives and no one was making a peep about it. We'll get to that next. What if I told you in a major American city in this country, and by the way, welcome in, happy Red Friday. What if I told you in a major American city in this country, you had people who were hiding in college libraries because of their religion? Do you think that would be a big story? You think it should be a big story? Seems to me it should be. But I had to dig for this one. I kind of stumbled upon it last night, and I thought to myself, holy cow, could you imagine if there was a different group of people involved here based on their race or their religion or something else? This would be headline news. Morning Joe and CNN and all the other garbage on TV, Good Morning America, things like that, they'd be The View. I mean, they'd be losing their minds off of this.
Red hats beating on a rainbow door.
Yeah. Yes.
That would get them fired up.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Bingo. Exactly right. But this one barely made a blip. So this week, a group of Jewish students had to take shelter in a library at Cooper Union College in New York as a group of demonstrators loudly chanted Free Palestine outside of the library. According to New York police, the Jewish students were safely escorted from that library. But for a period of time, they basically barricaded themselves in this library as people pounded on the door, shouting and chanting Free Palestine. They literally had to get the cops involved to escort them out safely. I just stumbled upon this story yesterday. I didn't see any headlines about it. I found it on this website, timesofisrael.com, and they got the video here and the whole thing. And then I see this. Also coming up this weekend, New York City Jews are basically being told to stay inside, specifically in Brooklyn. Why? Because a pro-Palestinian protest is scheduled for 3 p.m. on Saturday in front of the Brooklyn Museum. That is a mile from the headquarters of the largest ultra-Orthodox sect in the world. Roughly 20,000 observant Jews live in this area in the neighborhood called Crown Heights. And ultra-Orthodox news site called collive.com said a security source has advised Jews to avoid the area. Why? Because there's a huge pro-Palestinian protest scheduled for Saturday afternoon. So right now, you've got thousands of Jews in Brooklyn, New York, where there's a lot of them, who are trying to figure out, what do they do? They feel like they are at risk. They feel like they cannot be protected. And of course, on the Sabbath, observant Jews don't use electricity or vehicles or screens of any kind. And what do they do on the weekend to pass time? They go on long walks. Well, not this weekend. Who knows what direction this mob, they can call it a protest all they want, this mob is going to go. So Jews are being told in Brooklyn, New York, to stay inside. Could you imagine if any other group of people in this country was being advised to stay indoors because of a counter-protest that was taking place, and basically, we can't tell and we can't promise you any kind of safety? Imagine if that was happening to Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, LGBTQ Americans. Imagine that. There would be uproar. And by the way, rightfully so, there'd be uproar. Because no group in America should be targeted based on, what they believe, based on their skin color, based on anything like that, discriminatory. But Jews, New York, hey, maybe this Saturday, just kind of skip that walk, stay inside, because there's this big pro-Palestinian protest that's going to be taking place. So, try to get your steps in the morning if you got to go for a long walk. Try to pass the time, maybe, take out a board game or something, Monopoly, take out, Sudokus, crossword puzzles, have some fun. Just, you might want to batten down the hatches this weekend a little bit. But what do we hear on this one? Not much. Meantime, here back in Missouri, you've got this story, another example. A group of Washington University students. Boy, that place has gone nuts, huh? I mean, they're all about at Wash U. It's a great university, but holy cow, that place has lost its mind. They got the medical center there where, they're doing a lot of the transgender nonsense. And now you got this. It's like they're Ivy League wannabes. And it's a great school, but geez, Ivy League wannabes there at Wash U. A group of Wash U students walked out this week to call for the university to condemn Israel's attacks on Gaza as genocide. That's right. The students said the university failed to support Palestinian, American, and Muslim students facing threats and discrimination for speaking out, including a protest last week that drew dozens of people. Why is it that the people who are claiming they're being discriminated against, we really are only seeing massive examples of discrimination the other way? I'm seeing far more discrimination right now against Jews than I am Muslims. And no discrimination is good. Nobody should be discriminating. But to be very clear here, whether it was on the plaza a couple of weekends ago where you had all that nonsense going on, right? You had people who were protesting, pro-Palestinian protests were taking place in the plaza, and basically calling Israel, besides names we can't repeat on the air, having very nasty things to say about the Jewish people at large. That was happening right here in town. UMKC had one of those events as well. I'm not seeing a lot of that on the other end. I'm not seeing a lot of anti-Palestinian protests taking place. Now, many of us just have the opinion that Israel just suffered its worst attack since the Holocaust, and they have every right to target the terrorists and respond. Many of us do believe that, and I believe rightfully so. But it's not directed as an anti-Palestinian thing necessarily. It's driven by an anti-terrorism thing, an anti-Hamas thing. is how most of us are perceiving it and pushing it. But that, of course, doesn't really become part of the conversation for whatever reason. So whether it's New York or back here in Missouri, these things are continuing to percolate. You've got people who are clear anti-Semites running wild, saying whatever they want to say, doing whatever they want to do, and they're doing it by claiming they're the victims. That's what's so rich about this, right? They are doing this and then claiming victim status as they do it, attacking a subset of people because of their religious beliefs and then claiming they're the real victims. And the media, who is sympathetic to them, carries that water. Our text line is 913-408-7957. That's also the studio line here on KCMO Talk Radio. I mean, please tell me if I'm missing something here. That's what I'm here for on 95.7 FM. You got to keep me straight, but I don't think I am. 913-408-7957. That's how you join us here on KCMO Talk Radio. Kendall Gammon will be here at the top of the hour. Looking forward to having him in for a great conversation. Talk about the game this weekend. Meantime, on the Taylor Swift front, don't freak out. But if you are somebody who likes restaurants in this town, at the very least, I can share with you where they went to eat this week. We just got that information we'll tell you about. So this is really a restaurant story. Don't worry, we're not doing a deep dive into the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift relationship right now. But if you're a foodie, you'll at least be interested in this. We'll get to it coming up on KCMO Talk Radio. One of the things I've enjoyed most about this Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing is kind of learning a little bit more about where Travis Kelce likes to eat. Like, the relationship's great. All right, fine, cool. Happy for them both. I hope, it's forever love. But I really have enjoyed trying to get some insight into what kind of food these guys like. And by the way, one thing I've learned over the last couple of weeks is that they don't eat as healthily as I would have expected. I'm thinking these guys are eating, eggs and protein shakes and all that stuff all day. But I guess, they do have to have a little meat on the bone. They're not bodybuilders. They're not power lifters. They got to have a little fat on them. They got to take the hits.
They're burning carbs on a daily basis.
Oh, that's true, too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're doing that. So, anyway, Travis Kelce, we find out earlier in the week, takes Taylor Swift on a date. This was, of course, after she was in town for the game on Sunday against the Chargers. She hung out through Monday. And the Daily Mail had this article talking about a date they went on earlier in the week. And we know that Travis Kelce's current home is up just north of the river. He's moving, of course, to big old private complex, private neighborhood. They got, security and everything in Leawood. So he's going to be moving. But for now, he's up north.
Yeah, the Daily Mail opened up a Kansas City office at the end of his driveway, I think, right?
They did, seriously.
He's going to have to relocate.
They have seen every move the guy's made the last month or so. So they shared this here that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift went to the Argentinian steakhouse, Piropos, in his Rolls Royce earlier this week. The restaurant usually closes at 9 p.m., but stayed open late to accommodate the celebrity pair, who at one point had the entire restaurant to themselves for an intimate dinner of two. After 2 hours inside, the pair was seen walking hand in hand to the car. Travis then gently placed his hand on the small of Taylor's back, and ever the gentleman, writes the Daily Mail, opened the car door and made sure the pop star was safely inside. What a guy.
Such a nice man.
So, Piropos, up north. Now, if you're up north, you may have been to Piropos. I've been there once. We've been there once, I should say. It was probably 4 years ago. And it was okay. I mean, I haven't gone back in 4 years, so I guess that tells you all you need to know. Now, we were also living downtown at the time, so it was easier to get to. But it was, it was fine. It was kind of, overpriced for what it was, I thought. But it was okay. But Travis Kelce at Piropos over the long weekend with him and Taylor, hanging out a little bit here. over the last few days. So now she's going, what is the deal, Mark? She's got her tour starting up next weekend, I think it is, right, down in South America. She's got to go back down that way?
Yes, I believe that is when it starts.
All right, so she's going to be in Buenos Aires here in the next couple weeks. So here's what the Daily Mail writes. Piropos has delicacies such as empanadas, Argentinian-style crab bisque, or go all out on the peppercorn-crusted filet, a ribeye, or a lobster, which comes in at market price. Restaurants known for its grilled meats, seafood, fresh salads, and vegetables with a touch of Spanish, Italian, French, and other ethnic foods to enjoy the cosmopolitan nature of Argentinian dining. The couple ended the night by driving back to his house, followed by the singer's security team and 3 Kansas City Police Department SUVs. Now, hang on. Who's paying for that? If they're marked KCPD vehicles, I need somebody in law enforcement just to text in real quick on this. Does that mean the taxpayer of Kansas City is paying for that? Or are the off-duty cops who Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift may have hired allowed to use their police SUVs? Because I'm not certain on the answer, but I know somebody in this audience will know that answer. I'm not wild about it if our taxpayer monies are going to make sure Travis Kelce's Rolls Royce gets home safely from Piropos with Taylor Swift. That I'm not wild about. But I need somebody to answer on the text line whether or not that's something that is par for the course, unusual, if celebrities use that all the time. Because I don't know. It's way out of my league. 913-408-7957. I'm just curious because when I saw that in the article, I'm like, yeah, I'm not wild about that. But Travis had himself a very good food day earlier in the week. He got lunch, barbecue, burnt ends, quesadillas, chips and salsa from, Barrio, local Mexican joint here in town. And then he goes to Piropos at night. So he's living good. Now, as for the game this weekend, if you live in Odessa or if you have friends out there in Odessa, well, you're not going to be able to watch the game coming up here in a couple of weeks. Not this weekend's game, but next week's game against the Dolphins. Why is that? Well, Fox 4 had the article that Evergy is going to have a power outage from midnight to noon on November 5th. Whoopsies, bad planning there.
Working on some substations.
Yeah.
They probably didn't look at the schedule because they think, hey, we'll do it 8:30 to noon. We'll probably, Chiefs are probably playing maybe by noon or 3.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yep. Yeah, that is not good.
A couple of businesses are not business. One of them's not a business. One of them, I think, is a church just outside of town on a different power source saying, come on down, everybody. We're having breakfast.
Oh, yeah. That's smart.
And then one of the, I don't know if it's a bar and grill or a bar in town has some generators, so they got the TVs on and the beer cool.
Oh.
And then the cook's going to work out front off of a grill, I guess.
Well, you got 2 options there. Yeah. You go to the church or you go to the bar. All right?
You're making lemonade out of the lemons.
Yeah, that's life in general. Do you go to church or do you go to the bar? I mean, it's like,
in that life.
That is life in a nutshell right there. So just know that you got to pick one of those 2 spots. If you got friends out in Odessa, tell them they're not going to have the Chiefs game because of Evergy. Not this weekend, but next weekend against the Dolphins because that's an 8:30 a.m. game in Germany.
Or find yourself a church that has a bar.
Yeah. Or
that's my sister's church in Colorado has that.
Do they really?
Yeah, they rent a space. So.
Oh, well, that's
nice spot.
That's okay. That's interesting. Okay. All right. I don't know what to make about that, but I'll I guess I got to see it first before I make any judgments.
Communion's real popular.
Oh, gosh. We are going to have on our good friend Kendall Gammon, get you set for the game this weekend. By the way, those of you on the text line are saying that taxpayers aren't paying for Kelce's private security there, the KCPD folks. That is all off-duty, so it is paid for by him. It is not paid for by the taxpayer. So thank you for clarifying that here on KCMO. We appreciate it. Kendall Gammon will be here right around the corner on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Well said by our good friend Bill O'Reilly on a Friday morning. Happy Red Friday. Welcome in. It is great to have you on board. And maybe this morning you are right now waiting in a drive-through line for your coffee. Maybe you just picked it up. Well, you could be the next $3 million winner Who needs the Powerball when you can drop coffee on yourself and get awarded $3 million? Well, that's what happened in Georgia. A Georgia woman has been awarded $3 million in a lawsuit settlement after being served and burnt by a cup of coffee at her local Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru. The attorney for Morgan & Morgan. Wow, I'm shocked that that's the name of the law firm, by the way. It's always some cheeseball name for the law firm, isn't it? That's, hooking up $3 million lawsuits for a cup of coffee getting spilt on someone's leg. The attorney said here about this lawsuit, America may run on Dunkin', but our client had to relearn how to walk due to the severity of her burns. Oh, gosh, these guys are such cornballs. Her burns were so severe that she spent weeks in the burn unit at Grady Health and has had to entirely alter the way she lives her life. Walking still causes pain. She can't go out in the sun. And she must apply creams and ointments to her burns several times a day. According to the attorney, the woman went to a Georgia drive-thru Dunkin' Donuts, ordered a hot cup of coffee. After the employee handed her the coffee cup lid came off, spilling coffee on her, causing second and third degree burns to her thigh, groin, and abdomen. The woman's injuries resulted in over $200,000 in medical bills. The lawsuit argues that the accident would not have occurred if the drive-thru employee had properly secured the lid on the coffee cup. On Tuesday, the franchisee that operates the Dunkin' location agreed to a $3 million settlement to compensate the woman for her injuries and the negative impact on her life. Now, I feel bad for this woman. I do. Anyone who's dealing with second or third degree burns, you feel for. But $3 million? Like, okay, if you want to cover the medical costs, if there's a little bit on top of that, but you're talking 15 times the medical costs for this lawsuit. The text line is 913-408-7957. I got this on the text line. Pete, I'm a liberal, but I'm not a whiny weasel. If I spill hot coffee on myself, that's on me. By the way, now all coffee cup lids say, coffee may be hot. That's exactly right. They say that for a reason. Now, I'd like to see the video, and I'm sure there is no video of this, but I would want to see the video because you know as well as I do, if a lid is on one of those Dunkin' cups, like real snug and real tight, right? And you accidentally kind of squeeze that cup a little bit, the plastic exterior of that cup holder will pop off. If you've ever had a drive-through coffee, you know that, right? I mean, it happens, John. You know.
It does it on Quick Trip fountain drinks.
Yes.
It depends on where you grip the cup, but if you're doing the palm over the top, squeezing at the widest point of the cup, you can flex the lid off.
Thank you.
If you grab at the bottom of the base where it's very low, it fits into your hand and you carefully bring it to a level position.
Yes. Thank you, John. Thank you. Maybe we should have defended the Dunkin' Donuts franchisee in this case because apparently he had the worst attorney in Georgia. Might have been one of Trump's former attorneys down there. I don't know, but it was just a horrible attorney. When you're losing a $3 million case in a situation like this, it's just that fine line, right? Of first off, it's a cultural thing where we spill coffee on ourselves and automatically it's someone else's fault. Because I guarantee you that same person, if they got handed a cold cup of coffee, oh, my coffee's not hot. What do you guys not make hot coffee anymore? You Dunkin' Donuts. That's the same person who's then suing for $3 million. When the coffee comes in piping hot and they accidentally spill it on themselves. On the text line, hey, Pete, good morning. I have spilled my coffee on myself several times leaving my house. Do you think I could sue Folgers over that? Have a great day. No, I think that one's definitely on you. Definitely on you. Also on the text line, bottom line, it's going to be hot. It's coffee. Coffee. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I am losing sympathy for people who, for whatever reason, seem like they're always looking for a payday. And I'm telling you what, if I hear this story and I'm a trip and fall attorney, I'm searching for somebody who's going to conveniently spill coffee on themselves at the drive-thru. If we're talking about $3 million settlements, it's just out of control. And franchisees, these are small business people who are getting soaked because a $15 an hour employee may have not properly secured the lid. Or how about this? I got a great idea, since this is what I do. Try an iced coffee once in a while. If you don't trust yourself to handle it, try an iced coffee. Manny Abarca is going to join us, talk about this Royals drama next. The tide is turning, baby. It was 3.5 long years, but the tide is turning on the fraudulent organization that is and always has been Black Lives Matter. Most recently, yesterday, the Coalition for Jewish Values is calling on Major League Baseball, the NBA, and the NFL, and each of their franchises to end their support for Black Lives Matter. And the tipping point here was a post on the BLM Chicago page that essentially showed support for what happened in Israel a couple of weeks ago. By now, you probably have seen the Black Lives Matter Chicago poster from now deleted messages of their support for Hamas with an image of a paraglider. Of course, paragliders went in and murdered innocent people in Israel 3 weeks ago tomorrow, saying, "I stand with Palestine." They doubled down the following day, posting, "When we say free Palestine, you all say anti-Semitic and Hamas. Israel's terrorism created Hamas, and Zionism is a betrayal of the peace of Judaism, not those shouting against its genocidal effect on Palestine." That was shared by Black Lives Matter organizations in Detroit, Phoenix, Philadelphia, and national grassroots BLM groups all around the country defended those posts. Corporate America, media, and professional sports were hoodwinked by Black Lives Matter for the last 3.5 years. Can somebody point to one thing the organization has done to better the lives of Black Americans? The millions and millions of dollars that they stole from corporate America and fleeced off of major corporations and professional sports leagues and celebrities, what have they done with the money? There was a fraud case in California this year suggesting they were buying multi-million-dollar properties over there. Remember that? It was like a $6 million property that was getting criticized in the Los Angeles area. It was a compound, 6 bedrooms, 6 baths, swimming pool. Well, they had to go to court over that. You know what BLM said they were using that $6 million compound for? They said they used it as a campus for Black Artists Fellowship. I mean, the whole thing is one big fraud. What are they doing to help people in need in urban cores around America? Nothing here in Kansas City, right? That's for damn sure. So anyway, yesterday, this video was put out by Coalition for Jewish Values, and good on them. Let's roll the tape.
When BLM was founded, they didn't hide their anti-Semitism.
If we don't step up boldly and courageously to end the imperialist project that's called Israel, we're doomed.
Despite this, professional sports teams ignored their bigotry and elevated BLM, providing millions of dollars in publicity, including teams in cities with vibrant Jewish communities: Chicago, Dallas, New York, Miami, Boston. Now their grassroots organization and Chicago chapter praised the massacre of Jews in Israel, the murder and burning of Jewish children, the rape of Jewish women, and the slaughter of 1,300 Jews in Israel. They have called for the end of the only Jewish country in the world. Will the NBA, MLB, and NFL stop supporting and promoting a movement that advocates the murder of Jews?
That is a very powerful minute-long video from the organization Coalition for Jewish Values. If any other group in America was promoting at the grassroots level what Black Lives Matter has promoted over the last 3 weeks, they would be shamed into either massive nationwide apologies or just shamed from any type of mainstream public input in this country. And instead, it's been like, yeah, that was bad, but just kind of sweep it under the rug and BLM, you know. But good on this organization, Coalition for Jewish Values, on putting out, yes, an uncomfortable video, but a video that needed to be put out by an organization like that. Because I can sit here and, you know, have that same opinion, but when it comes from an organization like Coalition for Jewish Values, that makes a difference. And whether it's the Chiefs, you know, and the Chiefs, how much they're involved with the organization, I don't know. But we know that every NFL team has to have those dopey phrases in their end zones that you got, end racism. It's like, gosh, how long are we going to do that for? Just looks so dumb. But here's the thing. Once you put it in the end zone, how do you take it out? Right? Well, if you take it out, people are going to freak out. Are you trying to say racism is over? That's why from the get-go, when they started this whole dog and pony show in 2020, it was so dumb because there was no way to get out of it. Right? When you do something in business or in life and you don't want it to be forever, you got to figure out what your off-ramp is going to be. And the NFL clearly has not figured that out because they got to keep rolling with this thing. They have no choice. Now, I remember the Royals in 2020 during that season, they also had something on the mound. It was like Black Lives Matter or something on the mound. I don't think that's there anymore. As far as I can tell, I mean, I have YouTube TV, so I don't watch the games. I don't get the games. I went to a couple of games, and there was nothing prominent there at the K this summer that I could tell. But either way, every single professional sports team should be called by its season ticket holders and by its fans to say enough's enough with this, you know, little footsie that you're playing with organizations like Black Lives Matter, that in 3 years have zero track record of success for helping black people in need, number one. And then number two, when they make news, it's because they're doing things like showing support for the worst terrorists on planet Earth who just slaughtered 1,400 Jews. Put your foot down. Common sense is going to win out. I truly believe that on this Friday. Coming up on KCMO, Bud Light's in the news. They're getting knocked. They're getting canceled. But I'm going to defend Bud Light for the first time in almost a year. I'll explain it next.